brothers. We're happy and we're singing and we're colored. Give me a high five.
All right, cut and print. Beautiful, guys. Dynamite. That is...
Damn, I guess the countdown didn't want to start.
I was gonna say,
We're like usually the countdown starts a little bit like this, but I guess the intro said, "Fuck it, let's just start the show." Welcome everybody to the Crown Jewel post show here, sponsored by your boys here at the Backstage. Well, not sponsored, but brought to you by us here at the Backstage Brawl. This is episode 155, titled "Run the Jewels." This is the Crown Jewel post show here on the broadcast. Right now, you guys can follow us right now. We are live on Twitter, we're live on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button at the bottom. Let your peoples know that the Brawl is live. And, since it's just the two of us today, I'm going to basically just run through the introductions. I am your host and moderator, the People's Champion, a.k.a. the Final Boss, Shop, a.k.a. Shop Biz Ronnie. And I'm flanked by the resident fantasy booker extraordinaire, the Dynamite Kid, aka Kid Ty, aka Soft Force, as he is trying to keep it together as we break down Crown Jewel. But as normal, as we always do on this show, we start this show off with a vibe check. Kid Ty, how are you feeling entering this weekend?
I'm in better spirits now. My back was bothering me, so I actually had taken the day off yesterday. So it's been some uninterrupted rest, which I'm well overdue. And I'm all right for right now. I was caught off guard today because I almost forgot that the event was today. So it was actually around, I think it was 12:58. I was talking to some friends in a Discord call, and I was like, wait, what time does Crown Jewel start? And they were like 1, and then it just turned 1. And I was like, oh, shit. So I rushed in. I watched with them for a little bit. And to be honest, I think one thing that doesn't really get mentioned with a lot of these these more recent Saudi Arabia shows in the past couple of years has been they're a lot more tolerable to watch since WWE is putting more of an effort into making it match with the yearly continuity as opposed to it feeling more like a filler house show that has some elements that are current and then other stuff that's more like fan service. So, the show wasn't a bad watch overall. There are definitely some interesting things on here that I thought kind of threw me off, but, it wasn't a bad watch at all.
No, I respect it. I mean, same here. Oh, no, I thought I muted myself like Eric. But for real, I enjoyed the show too. I think the last few shows that they've went to Saudi, they've kind of put together a complete product. I think today they had a really good showing from everybody from top to bottom. I mean, there were some lowlights, but it wasn't glaring to the point where we're just like, all right, man, that's what it is. Whether you agree with the finish or booking decisions, that's subjective. But at the end of the day, they capitalized on their goal, and that was to make a good show out there and to set up into Survivor Series War Games. So as we kind of move into the show, we can definitely start talking about the match and start breaking it down. So, let's just start with, for instance, basically the main event. Let's start with Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the Crown Jewel Championship. What was your thoughts about this match? Did you think the right man won? And how do you think this helps either champion moving forward?
Personally, I don't think the right person won, but that's more off of internal feeling compared to maybe booking, because I've been a bit off in a couple weeks trying to keep up with things. But the reason why I feel like the wrong man won, it's kind of bigger than just, recent events. It's more so just the World Heavyweight Championship as a whole hasn't really felt this grounded until Gunther won it. I think it did some wonders for Damian Priest, giving him that foot in the door for people to take him more seriously. But for the most part, the World Championship hasn't felt like it's been on par with the WWE Universal Championship. Yes, it's still a combined belt. And I look at it like this. If you want people to care, you have to make them care. This is one of the biggest things in pro wrestling, one of the biggest principles for me. And Gunther's done a very good job of representing and carrying himself as a champion. He's had great matches, both with the title on the line and without it during this reign. And I think that a win over Cody could have been something that Cody could have used as motivation to push himself further into the new year. Losing to the world. I know the argument was, why even make these matches? It doesn't benefit anybody to have one world champion beat the other, because it just makes, and I understand where people are coming from with that. But my thing with it is this. In this situation, I was okay with it only because Gunther, as world heavyweight champion, is not only getting himself over, he's getting the championship over, which he did with the Intercontinental title. And if you really want to make people care more about this world championship and tune into Raw more, having him beat arguably the 1B or 1A of the company in terms of recognizability, it makes a lot more sense. And it's not as though Cody can't benefit from a loss. When you're a champion and you're perceived as being invincible, whether it makes sense for your narrative or not, sometimes a loss can help add a new layer of interest into your reign, because where do you go from there? And then you can get really creative in terms of rebuilding yourself up. And I think that makes more sense for Cody's character than it does for Gunther's character. And in terms of the actual finish, the match was I can't English. The match was fine, and I enjoyed moments of the match. But if there's one thing that has bothered me for a minute, is that a lot of people who use rear naked chokes and sleeper holds as finishing maneuvers always get caught with that same like rollback finish, where you roll backwards and you stack the person on their shoulders, and that's just a pet peeve of mine. I've seen Shayna go through it enough. I've seen Samoa Joe go through it enough, and it's one of those things where it's like it always comes at the expense of a very powerful character using a rear naked choke, and it's like, dude, I would really, really wish we would stop using that finish. I thought it was great when Bret Hart did it to Roddy Piper. I think it's still a good finisher, like match finish option overall, but it's been done so many times the past couple of years, it definitely needs a break. So I feel bad because I know they wrote themselves into a hole. But you could have at least went the whole way through and had Gunther get that more decisive victory to kind of keep him steady. He didn't have to get humbled by Cody, even if it was through a slip finish like that. So, you know.
Nah, I feel you. Like I'm with you with that. Like I kind of felt like Cody would have been all right with the loss, because Gunther needed it more because of what he was trying to establish as world champion. I understand the fact that, because for me, I don't want to necessarily say like, yeah, I'm trying to like overly like fantasy book, and even though we fantasy book, it's what we do. But I was thinking to myself, like, with everything that KO did tonight and what you saw on SmackDown last night, well, the tape show, you would have thought that would have been some carryover between what happened then and how it impacted Cody to losing, which would give, I mean, yeah, like it would be like a cheap win for Gunther to win, but at the same time, like he would benefit from it more, considering the fact that like all the momentum as a champion and as a top guy is already on Cody. He doesn't suffer much if he bites this one, whereas Gunther gains a lot if he would take the win and then see what he could have done moving forward going into Survivor Series. Because I think they've been advertising him versus Punk, I believe, as one of the main matches that they've wanted. But obviously, you know, that might not be the case going into it. Who knows? But as it appears right now, I figured Gunther kind of would have benefited more from the win, you know, in that match. And everything that you said, again, you know, it kind of does fall in line in terms of the way people might have felt about some of these finishes tonight. And I think it might have been a recurring theme of tonight. So
Yeah.
I guess as we go along with these matches, I guess we can dive deeper in terms of what, you know, is being talked about.
I will say, before we go to the next, it's a very short kind of digression.
What's up?
I understand how some people feel when it comes to wrestling finishes, because a lot of times they feel like because it's so dependent on the story that if you lose a certain way, people immediately lose interest. And in some cases, that can be the truth. But coming from the other part of the phrase sports entertainment, coming from the sports roots of professional wrestling, I would offer this. Think of it in terms of boxing as well, or another combat sport, where a lot of fans say after you lose a certain fight, you're done, your career's over, you can't recover, this and that. It's a very similar realm, which is why a lot of this stuff is very familiar to me in general. But I look at it like this. Some of the best stories are the climb back. You're trying to get back to where you were. You're trying to make up for a loss. And sometimes those losses can lead to other stories down the line. Like some time ago, we talked about Asuka's streak and how we didn't agree with Charlotte beating Asuka's streak. I offered it should have been Ember Moon. Sent Asuka to the main roster with a loss so that when Ember Moon eventually made her way to the main roster, she had a built-in story to start off with where she's the person who was the one in Asuka's streak, which would eventually lead to them having a match where Asuka would want to get her lick back. I look at it the same way here. If Gunther had beaten Cody Rhodes more decisively, I know some people wouldn't have been okay with that because they would have been like, why are you making your top guy lose like that? But in reality, it's a top guy losing to another top guy. And it continues this more low-key story with Cody and Gunther, where every time they have encounters, Cody got the better of Gunther in the Rumbles. Cody got the better of him in certain situations. So for Gunther to get his lick back here, it's like there's a low-key rivalry happening here that hasn't been made overt. It's a lot more subtle, but eventually can build to a fresh story down the road that already has some history behind it. So I think people should be more open-minded to those type of finishes because let's be honest here, sometimes when you watch this stuff, you kind of look at the tomfoolery of it and go, damn, I just wish they would have gotten to the point. And I think that was the case with this and a couple matches on the card to the point you were making. So just be more open-minded with that, thinking of it from a sports perspective as well. Because the story never ends in wrestling.
No, that's a fact. Let's switch to the women's crown jewel championship match. It was Liv Morgan versus Nia Jax. Liv Morgan obviously took up the victory thanks to a little bit of shenanigans, thanks to Dirty Dom and Eric's favorite, Grizz's favorite person, Raquel Rodriguez. The finish to me was like I felt like with all the momentum Nia Jax had, it would have benefited her more going into that. But when you look at it, hindsight, with Rhea out, it kind of leaves Liv in the middle here. And especially with them not promoting any other women on the Raw side because they're basically putting right now Io Sky in just, the tag team situation with the, with Damage Control. So it's just like, all right, she's in limbo here, but from a SmackDown perspective, the story that's going on is a little stronger with Nia Jax in terms of her dominance. In terms of how the match kind of ended, I was just like, I get it, but just like, Liv don't really need the win. So this is kind of one of those other matches, another one of those matches tonight. Again, it's going to be a recurring theme in terms of like, the winning and loser of the matches, all perspective, by the way. But the way it kind of, showcased itself on TV, I was just like, it could have went a different way because, what I felt one party could have benefited more than the other.
I hear that. I guess we'll start from the top. Number one, I don't mind heel versus heel because there was enough storyline stuff here to kind of make that up. I don't mind babyface, heel. It doesn't always have to be hero and villain for me. In the case of Nia and Liv, honestly, you could have made a case for either person winning. I do agree that Nia probably would have benefited from this as well because Nia's done very well as like in terms of carrying herself as a champion. She's done well in my opinion, but definitely needs that oomph to get her over the hump to really make people feel like this reign is more legitimized. I understand that. In the case of Liv is very much a weasel type of heel. So for her to get squashed, not literally, but for her to get like destroyed by Nia or to lose to Nia wouldn't have hurt her much because people kind of expect her to not be able to win these matches anyway. And a lot of it is her having a delusional type of reign as is. So I don't really hate the idea of Liv losing. What annoyed me the most in this matchup is more so how competitive it was personally. Now, this will also come up later on in another David versus Goliath style matchup we'll get to later. But I got as a fan, I'm not a big fan of giant people like super heavyweight-esque wrestlers or people in that kind of direction doing avalanche moves and people kicking out of them that really shouldn't be. Like I look at Liv Morgan and I'm like, Liv Morgan gets hit with a avalanche Samoan drop and kicks out at 2. And I'm like, I don't think you've earned that yet. not, and that's not me trying to be disrespectful. It's me being honest. Like if Nia Jax is 300 something pounds. Oh, you're mute, by the way. Nia Jax is 300 something pounds, and she's dropping you from the second rope. You're already done if you're getting hit off the rebound. So for me, stuff like that kind of bothered me. I understand they wanted to make both women look strong, which again was the theme of the show, making both of the top champions look strong. But narratively speaking, Liv doesn't have to look like she has a fighting chance against Nia because because while she is a very much improved pro wrestler than she was much a time ago, that's not what she's dependent on right now. It's not like her skill goes away, but because of her mindset, her mental going into this match, she's not going to be as resourceful as she needs to be against Nia. And because she's more delusional and because she's more distraught and everything in between, I feel like it would have made more sense for Nia to just get that win. It doesn't have to be a short match. It doesn't have to be a squash match. No, but I'm saying it didn't have to be that long. And I think Nia should have gotten that victory more decisively. In a sense, I know there was going to be shenanigans towards the end, but in a sense, I feel like Nia still should have walked out with it. Plus 2 wins in Saudi Arabia. Nia in this current run of coming back is making up for a lot of years of being mishandled, and I feel like we could have stayed in that direction. So I think she should have got the second win in Saudi. All the stuff with Tiffany and Raquel and Dominic was fine, but I think it should have been the other person getting their hand raised for sure. We don't need every match to be somewhat competitive. If you're going to have someone get an advantage when they're completely and utterly like outmatched and there's a mismatch, you got to make it more sensible than that to me, because she can be clever and stick and move, but if you're getting hit with a power move from the top rope, you should be like a roach on the bottom of a shoe. Personally, that's me. Muted.
I'm replacing Eric today.
Yeah.
Nah, shout out to Grizz right now. He is currently at his place of employment. We're hoping to see him back next week as we start fantasy booking some things as we head to Survivor Series. Nah, I kind of felt the same way. But the thing about it is tonight, like you said, like Nia, the way since she's returned, she has really like done the she's done the easy things very well. Like she's done the things that has made her look like the person that we all expected her to be,
Yep.
as a champion. And now that she's doing that, she's putting the tools together at this stage of her career, and she's had a great run with it. And for her to kind of lose in that kind of fashion, I wouldn't say it left a sour taste in my mouth. It's just kind of like, I get it. You don't want to basically like, give it, you want that David versus Goliath moment, and with Liv's momentum going, you don't want to necessarily dim hers as well. But I do believe from a dominant champion's perspective, again, I would have been fine if both Nia and Gunther won and went in, and that, because it would have meant so much more to them, because with someone like Liv and Cody, they can get an opportunity like this, around the sun again, because it wouldn't have impacted them. But for a Gunther or a Nia Jax, it would have meant so much more to what they're trying to convey as WWE superstars and as professional wrestlers as well. Because at the end of the day, fans who look at WWE, they look at it from 2 different perspectives. They look at the in-ring, from one perspective, but they also look at the entertainment value as well in terms of who can put asses to seats. But I feel like those 2, especially the matches that we're talking about, I felt that those 2 were credible enough to represent WWE as the Crown Jewel champions. But again, they have an image to maintain in terms of the masses here in America, domestically, so I understand.
That bullshit. The reason why I say bullshit is because, like, look, if everything is status quo, nothing's going to be interesting. It's like, yeah, I get it. Okay, you want this person to win because they're a better representative in your mind for the company. Well, it's like, okay, then what's the point of making villains? You just go back to what you did in the 80s, where like everyone's just built to lose to Hogan. Everyone's just built to lose to like the happy-go-lucky characters, and you don't need to do that anymore. The company is so big now that their biggest face was a heel. Like Roman Reigns had the cool factor, yeah, but he was still a heel being the face of the company. Like that doesn't work for me, brother. You know, like a lot of that doesn't work for me because it's like you've already proven you can do the opposite and work. And I'm not saying Gunther has to be the number one person. I'm okay with that, but it doesn't have to be. Like you can take a lot more bullets at this point. You can make more risks. You are the hottest commodity you've been in over a decade. There's no reason to be afraid to take chances. You've done it with production. You've done it with booking. You've done it with certain stars you put your faith into. There's no reason why you can't go the extra mile, especially on shows like this. Because if you do finishes like that, if Gunther or Nia Jax win decisively here, people are going to sit there and go, "Oh wow, they actually did it." And stuff like that can add more intrigue to future shows, especially when people feel like most of these shows don't matter till Mania. So honestly, I don't really buy that. I think that it's ironic because Cody's a babyface and he could have benefited from a loss. Liv is a heel on the complete opposite spectrum of Cody's character and could have benefited from a loss. And especially with Rhea being confirmed to be out for an indefinite period of time. If Liv is looking weak right now, she's easy pickings for the rest of the roster. This is where a Zelina can step up. This is where an EO or a Kyrie can step up. And you can have a scenario where the Sky Pirate... Yes, that's also possible. But you could have a scenario where... Imagine a storyline where Liv is running away from damage control. And the only way she's surviving is the fact that the damage control girls are accidentally costing each other opportunities, which could lead to a storyline where there's friction in between, you know? So like there's other stories that can happen here too. And honestly, both Cody and Liv can honestly afford to lose their championships if you want to take it a step further, because you don't have to hold the belt the whole way till Mania. You could lose it, take some time off of it, and then get it back. And then somebody could benefit from that slight rub they get from holding the championship if handled right too. So these are just other possibilities I'm offering the floor, because if we just get used to people, you know, taking turns with the championship, like long turns with the title, then no one's going to become champion. I know the age-old adage is not everybody can become world champion, but my caveat to that is, well, more people can definitely hold the belt than what you're thinking. And there are better ways to handle it than just going, well, not everyone can have it, top guys win.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah. No. Yeah. When you put it like that, then I definitely agree with you on that standpoint.
All this talk about long-term booking and all people care about are results. Let's get some more variety-filled booking in between. Thank you.
Yeah, we do need some variety. So since we're on the theme of championship matches, let's keep the theme going. Let's stick with the women real quick. Let's go to the women's Fatal 4 tag team match for the women's tag team championships. With of course the champions retaining in Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. I love the showing for the metaphor from NXT, how they were represented. What's your thoughts on that, Ty? What was your thoughts on this match?
Triple H and multi-person matches with car crash mentality is a guarantee. I tell you what. I didn't mind this match, but I kind of expected this ending. I'm happy that some people got spotlighted, but it's one of those things where it can be a little bit bittersweet. I think in the case of the Metaphor girls, they benefited a lot because this was, for some people, their only real top showing if they don't watch NXT. So a lot of people are going to sit here and go, oh my God, Lash Legend is another giant powerhouse. Oh, she is kind of similar to Bianca and Jade. Oh, and Jakara is out here jumping around and flying around similar to Io and Kyrie. Not exactly the same, but she's daring, she's willing, she wants it. And that does a lot for the Metaphor girls. The Meta girls did nice. In the case of other teams who've been in these car crash type of matches, sometimes it's just a great performance that gets overshadowed by weeks of inactivity. Like, for example, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven, who have kind of been all over the place this year in terms of what opportunities have been able to take advantage of. But I will say, while I did enjoy the performances, my biggest hope is that all four teams have something to work with substantially and sink their teeth into those going forward. Because I don't want it to just be, oh, this was for the Metaphor girls and then no one else benefits. I don't want this to just be, oh, we have Io and Kyrie being like the glue people of the team, of the tag team matches, and then they don't get to reap the spoils of it either. I'm happy for the champions, but I do wonder, when are they going to lose these championships, and who are they going to lose them to? How are they going to have the implosion? They've kind of talked about it and they planted seeds into it already for now, but I do want a more substantial tag division than just a lot of, like a lot out of the 3 teams or the 4 teams. 3 of them honestly could dissolve at any moment, and the only one that's kind of going to stick around are the Metaphor girls to me. So I need more teams where it's harder to see them dissolve. Or real.
No, I feel the same with you too. I think Corey alluded to it earlier during the show, the fact that Jade is more interested in Instagram photos, and while Bianca is like, she's focused on the craft and getting better. And I was kind of waiting until like when you start pulling a little bit of the hints of what they're doing on social media, and that's the advantage of how social media can work into storylines, but to see where the cracks are going to begin in terms of a Bianca and Jade.
Yep.
Because like everybody's thinking, oh well, Jade's just going to come in and she's going to immediately turn heel, and that's just going to be it. Meanwhile, like, you don't know what Bianca's motives are, because like she could be upset the fact that she's relegated to being a tag team, when she could very well be holding that championship, or being, the crown jewel champion, or being the representative of that. And it's kind of weird because, like, on both shows, you kind of do see where there's gaping holes for, like, other women to kind of, like, come out and be showcased more. Like you said, a Selena Vega or a Candice LeRae on SmackDown, or even now the Metaphor now gotten opportunities on SmackDown. It's like, okay, who else is going to come out that crop to kind of just say, okay, we got something to play with, that's not just the people that we have in the main event scene. Because for a minute there, we talked about how, as great as Rhea Ripley is, how much of not a curse, but a disservice it does for other women who could have, really given Rhea a run for her money as champion when she was, running rampant with the Judgment Day.
Yeah. There's a lot. My bad for cutting off, but there's a lot. I mean, talk about people like Lyra Valkyria. We just lost Indy Hartwell and Tegan Knox through the releases.
That sucks.
We're talking about like Shayna Baszler, who's been on the main, like we've been begging for years. Use her beyond just being associated with a stable or a team. Zoe Starks is still there, and she's an incredible athlete. Sonya Deville is still, although I'm not a big fan of what she's been doing recently. I mean, she's still someone who you can use. So there's a lot. And now you also have Charlotte on the horizon, most likely going to be the person to feud with Nia, because where do you really go with that? Naomi is overdue. Like, she came back partly to get her spot back, and with the talks of secondary belts coming up too, you need more intent, you need more focus, and you need to spread the wealth in terms of the booking for the women, definitely, because you've been very narrow-minded and tunnel-visioned with these stories.
And I do think, unfortunately, as many people love the fact that we went back to 2 hours from now, just wait. Unfortunately, I believe it might be coming back for both shows, especially on the USA Network. Obviously, that SmackDown is going to fill that 3-hour block when they decide in 2025, and then when they move to Netflix, I don't think Netflix is going to be more so 3 hours fully, because it's commercial free on Netflix, I believe. It'll probably run like at least 2:30. It'll run at least probably 2:30 max, because usually a Raw with commercials like about a good half an hour, so like 2:20 at most.
I mean, that's not to say that WWE won't run their own ads too with their own sponsors and stuff.
No, and that might be true as well, but it won't be to the duration of like you're on USA Network and you have these 3-minute blocks of like ads where you can just go warm up your food real quick and then it'll still be commercial when you get back, type shit. So I believe with the extra hour coming for both shows going into the next calendar year, I do think the fact that that extra hour could help, give back that, give some of that time back to those who were starting to get momentum, but because they went back to that second hour, especially on Raw, it gives them, whoever hasn't gotten that time period in between, when it was 3 hours, they kind of get that time back, and with the mid card title especially for the ladies' perspective as well, because it kind of gives them more of a purpose, more of a reason to be on the show rather than just being backstage fodder, or again, like you said, in a team, or in a stable. But moving on, we're gonna keep this on the championship front. I believe this is the last championship match we'll be talking about. It'll be the United States Championship triple threat match featuring LA Knight, versus Carmelo Hayes and Andrade. For some apparent reason, I thought that LA Knight was gonna lose. I felt he was gonna lose this championship match to either one of those two because of the fact that he's been more transfixed on those two than a Santos Escobar who's on the main roster, and other guys who could possibly vie for that championship. So like, even though Solo might want the main title, Solo could still also go for the United States Championship as well, because how else are you gonna make a name for yourself within the bloodline if you're not a champion? So I felt from that standpoint, LA Knight was gonna lose the championship because his mind hasn't been necessarily on anyone else but Andrade and LA Knight, which was Carmelo Hayes, and which made for a perfect storm in terms of what the triple threat match represented.
I do have a thing to talk about those hours, but I'll try to turn it into. I'll spin it into this. I mean, that was one of the main storylines going into this. You had two stories. You had LA Knight kind of just being, as you said, kind of having his head in a different cloud, so to speak, and then you have the best of 7 being ruined, and this is kind of being like the culmination of all their hard work. And the ending kind of put those two storylines on a crash course for, LA Knight got lucky. He caught Carmelo at the right time to where he was able to dunk 2 basketballs at once, essentially. And that is good. I do enjoy that because, look, Andrade and Carmelo still have to blow this feud off. And LA Knight was able to literally escape with the championship because had he not caught that lucky break, that would have been it. So it worked in one of the only matches where this actually worked out fairly well. This worked out well on more cylinders, maybe not all, but more cylinders than most. And I think that that's okay. LA Knight probably will be dropping this belt at some point in the future, like sometime soon between Survivor Series and the Rumble. And that's okay. Like, we can have more champions in between. I mean, we talk about those. We also talk about an AJ Styles who's still on the roster and still has beef with LA Knight. And he still wants to prove himself. And Lord knows he deserves a chance to have a better U.S. championship reign than those first 3, which were clouded with nonsense. But, that's a possibility. You could also have either of those two win the belt. You said Solo. I also think of Jacob Fatu. I mean, what would happen if Jacob Fatu were to be the first person in the new bloodline to win a singles championship over Solo? How would Solo handle that? So there's possibilities all around, really, and that's just part of the roster. If they decide to use other people in the roster, Apollo is still a thing.
Because now Baron Corbin, unfortunately,
Baron Corbin could have been one of those names. I don't see why he shouldn't have been considered, but we'll talk about that another day. Unfortunately, it does kind of, or maybe later. Who knows? It does suck. But
we'll chop it towards the end of the show if you got time.
Yeah, but and another thing with all these opportunities, they have time to flesh these things out, whether they have 2 hours or 3. I think that it's all about how you pace the shows. You can make a 2-hour show feel longer than it actually is. You can make a 3-hour show feel shorter than it actually is. Whatever time limit they're given, they are owed. We are owed the opportunity to see a lot of these storylines fleshed out, whether it be episode 1 flows into episode 2 or something that episode 1 is continued on episode 3. You talk about the old Raws. What about the old NXTs? Sometimes you'd watch NXT on the network, and something that happened on one episode wouldn't be answered for another 2. But that's because they're taping 2 episodes in one show, so you can stretch some of those stories out. It's not to say they can't do that on a live format where it's like, oh, we haven't seen you in 2 weeks, and actually spreading those stories out across multiple episodes can actually help. In terms of the variety, it can actually help people go, oh yeah, that's right. And it honors you for keeping your attention up. It honors you for watching the episodes. So whether they have 2 or 3, it doesn't really matter to me. It's more so whatever format you have, make the most of it and properly pace these things so that people can continue watching. So that after a month of watching the show, you have a good idea of where 80% of the roster stands, in my opinion.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I felt it was good. Like again, to close this with this, I felt like it was a good match between those three. And once again, like, I kind of alluded to this earlier. Like Andrade, since like giving him Mello for the last, since late summer, having this program, I think it's done a great job for him. And I like these kind of best of 7 matchups because it kind of makes sure it kind of gives you like a good glimpse of like, all right, it's not just about what's the best storyline. It's about, oh, like we competing around here. Like we're serious about this. And it's like seeing Carmelo and Andrade go back and forth, in those 6 bouts. And then of course tonight, this puts a lot more emphasis on the United States Championship, which is what we've been asking for, and putting more emphasis on mid-card titles. And the fact that LA Knight is the one driving the ship as the champion, I think it does provide those opportunities. I just do wish the fact that, I guess when they do have the 3rd hour, I guess that's when you can include an AJ Styles, or you can include a Santos Escobar, or you can include a Apollo Crews, who was, United States champion at one point in time. So you can definitely like build on, give a lane for the SmackDown mid card as well as the Raw mid card. But for Raw, they're gonna go right back to it as if like, they never missed a beat. But for SmackDown, it's gonna be a little different because SmackDown's never been 3 hours. So if you give that third hour to, the SmackDown women's and men's mid card, should they have champion, well, for the women's side, should they have a champion for that? It gives, it fleshes out more for the characters you do want to see on TV, and gives Triple H a lot more ideas to work with in terms of like, okay, how do you now structure these shows? Now, if you have these 5 match shows outside of tonight, maybe you can add a 6th and figure out how to pace the match, kind of like how Sean does with the NXT PLEs. So I think,
or you could prioritize your TV even more, have more super episodes of Raw and SmackDown as well.
exactly, and I think you can also utilize it with the Saturday night's main event that's coming back in December. So with that, you can save your big, like, if you don't want to use it on a pay-per-view, or you can use something that you could use on a B pay-per-view on a Saturday night's main event, as opposed to like, all right, you gotta force yourself to basically have this big ass PLE that might flop in terms of the expectation of how everybody else has seen the PLEs last few months. It'll be good to kind of have one of those Saturday night main events on TV, a very big specialized event. Not on the not on the Peacock app, but you could have it on the actual NBC network during prime time. And especially with NBC now getting back the NBA going into 2025, what better way to kind of bring some of those viewers in by doing that? I think, Triple H is kind of thinking about that too, as well as TKO. So I think if I would like for them to kind of pursue that opportunity if they so choose.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. I agree with that completely. I've talked about it. I've done episodes on it. I would love to see more super episodes, more super shows, more special episodes of Raw, special episodes of SmackDown, where they're on the cusp of being pay-per-view-esque, where you have matches that are given more time. Not to say that they're not doing some of that now, but like you prioritize these, like a Slammy Awards episode should feel like a big episode. The way that NXT and also TNA for years would use old pay-per-view names for super episodes of their shows is the same thing that WWE should be doing on the main roster, to be quite honest. There's no reason why WWE couldn't have done main roster Halloween Havocs.
Or
either
in your house. Like
Great American Bashes, or In Your Houses, or any of those events. You could have done it that way. You could have just had them been special episodes. You could have just, like, a lot of these things. There's no reason, in my opinion, why fans should be able to say with the utmost arrogance, it's just a TV match or it's just an episode. There's no reason.
Ty, hold on. As you cook, you know who you sound like just now, just when you made that statement?
Ooh.
NBA Twitter. And how, like, they view the regular season as, oh, it's just a regular season game. It doesn't mean anything. But it's like, in order to win a championship, in order to get to WrestleMania, in order to do these things, you have to go through the regular season to get to the postseason. If you want to be a major player, if you want to be the guy or the last person standing holding a championship at the end of it. For the NBA, it's June. For the NFL, it's early February. For MLS, it's whenever in the year because my mind escapes me. For the Dodgers, who just won the damn World Series against my Yankees, it was just this past week on Thursday. These are things, you have to get through the regular season to get to the postseason in order to immortalize yourself.
Without question.
For AEW as well. Like for you to get to Double or Nothing or even to All Out or All In, you have to go through, Battle of the Belts. Which they do, which in their purview they do very, very well in terms of theming their major episodes or Winter is Coming. Like WWE they have enough of the resources to pursue that at this point.
They've had it for a while. I think that, not to cut you off, but just to add, I'm not saying that you have to flip. This is the problem. A lot of sports fans in general look at things at black and white, like my mask. A lot of them just look at these things as black and white.
It's instant gratification from these fans, though.
It's not even just that. It's just people are used to their patterns, and they like things they like things to be slightly improved, but they don't want to stray away too much from their patterns. We're creatures of habit. I get it. Here's my thing. I want to switch the pattern to where it's somewhere in the gray. I like wrestling when it's in the gray. When you can kind of touch reality, but also play around with creative elements of fantasy, cool. When you can blur those lines, cool. And I think that in terms of scheduling, if you have more super episodes of shows, that's going to draw more interest to your television events than you already have, which is saying something. It's going to make people seek out these tickets more, which is saying something. You can't have the moniker of anything can happen in the WWE and be predictable 80% of the time. I'm not saying that you have to be unpredictable all the time. What I'm saying is that if you're somewhere in the middle of the road, you can see both sides and you can choose which direction is best depending on what journey you want to go on. So if you want to have a more balanced approach to this, and you can have WWE championships be won on regular episodes, not just the secondary titles, not just the second tier titles. If the WWE championship were to change on a Saturday night's main event, or were to change on an episode of SmackDown, or if the world title were to change on an episode of Raw, it should not be seen as a taboo. It should be seen as, ooh, the story is getting more interesting. I wonder how the pay-per-view will turn out from that in a good way, not in a, oh God, I'm shaking type of way. So that's how I feel.
Like, I think we're on the same page when it comes to that, because I believe, like, again, WWE, they have the resources to pursue it. Like, it's not like, it's not the same regime where it's like, you have the resources, why don't you do it? Now it's okay. Now that they have the resources, I think from their purview now, in terms of course, who's in charge, it's a matter of when do they decide to pursue it themselves.
What I say, man, they can afford to take risks now.
They can afford to take risks now because the veil of rigid behavior is gone. Because remember, the person that was running it before, like you said, he had a certain routine in terms of how he expected things. Instead of,
and they're on top now too. It's not like they're going to lose money. Like, people can't actually like the product right now. So why not try?
They're not, and I think that's something that they're going to pursue. I just believe, in terms of Triple H and how he does it in terms of timing, is never usually like how we expect it, because Triple H does it things on his own time. And
fair enough, but
whether through trial or error, like he's going to do things in terms of how he, when it's preferable, not in terms of when, like, because at this point you could have done the women's, mid-card titles long before already, and then, have something going. But because of everything coming in, like the new deal going to Netflix and then going to 3 hours, I think you're going to hold off on that until you get those things off the ground. So I know from a like, I'm just putting myself in Triple H's like shoes for a second. It may not be exactly what he's doing, but I just do believe the fact that he's a very topical individual. So he's going to do it in terms of where the order of everything is at.
I feel like that's fair, but I've also seen Triple H run a promotion before he got the reins of the main roster. And to be honest, it's not like it isn't in him to take those risks as is anyway. I watched him run NXT. Granted, it was smaller scale, but a lot of those principles are uniform. A lot of those principles are, pardon the term, universal. They can still work on a grander scale, and the audience is way more receptive now than before. If anything, it's just a bigger version of NXT now. To me, it's not. It doesn't mean that you're going to have all the same benefits, but you have new advantages along with the new problems. So for me, after the deal is done, Yes, go nuts. But in the same token, don't stall people so much that by the time you finally get the opportunity to do what you want, people don't care.
There you go.
That's what it is.
I respect that as well. 40 minutes past the hour, and we have been having a dope conversation talking about the Crown Jewel post show. Please like, share, subscribe to us on YouTube at The Backstage Brawl. We are live on Twitter at Backstage_Brawl. We're live on Facebook at The Backstage Brawl. Shout out to the Sports Hit List. Shout out to shout out to Big E, aka Grizz. Shout out to Matt, who was supposed to be on the show today, but is not. Shout out to Your Sports. Shout out to the Jobber Tears podcast, Jobber Tears Network, and just shout out to all the content creators here in the wrestling community. Now, our next match of the night that we're going to basically break down was Eslabanaka, which featured Seth Rollins and Big Bronson Reed, and
I hate this match.
So before Ty goes off on this match, before Ty goes off, because I'm gonna let you go off, because I'll put this as your belt to belt segment of the week in terms of how you're feeling.
I guess.
So, but from my perspective, how I saw this match, I mean, it was a typical Seth Rollins match. I don't know why he was wearing them chaps like he was 05 HBK, but I respected the fact that he had them Space Jam Jordans on, like that they were clean. I'm not sure if he did it to troll Bronson, because Bronson has a lot of Jordans himself. But
I don't
hey,
care.
man, that match was everywhere. That match was everywhere. It was outside the ring, inside the ring. It was it was as gritty of a match as can get within the parameters of the rules of the match. Seth Rollins obviously picked up the victory. Again, a running theme of Crown Jewel. When you think the match is going to finish away, or the person you think is going to win, doesn't win, you're like, huh? So again, it's been one of those running gags of tonight in terms of the finishes. So Kid Ty, this will be, I guess, your bell to bell moment to sound off. So Kid Ty, I give you the floor.
All right, so let's get some things out of the way. MF Doom singlet, yes, more of that. But match starting off on the ramp before the bell actually happened. I'm happy with that. That was awesome. Here's where the match kind of sucks for me. If you want the idea of this match was to establish that Bronson Reed, despite all the punishment he took, is still standing. They did it at the end. His eye was bleeding, which was a cool shot. Cool. Here's my thing. I was looking at this match with a magnifying glass because I believed the best way to really make the most out of this feud was to establish Braun first as it's going to take a lot to beat you. And to be fair, people make the argument, well, it did take a lot to beat Braun. Yes. Here's my thing. It would have been more magnified and more appropriate for this victory to have happened in their second outing or the third outing. And the reason why I say that is because if you want to establish the narrative, you have to establish it by giving it time to simmer. If Braun had picked up the victory over Seth Rollins here in Saudi Arabia, it would have been a career victory for him in WWE. It would have established to the audience, this man, we can't, no, like if to the most unknowing casual, to the smarkiest of fan, it would have been like, we have to take him seriously. And that would have been uniform across the fandom. And I think that him beating Seth clean would have done so much for Bronson, and it would have made Seth go, damn, I really have to think about this, especially considering the fact that he hasn't had much action since coming back from his injury at WrestleMania. He hasn't had that many matches. He's still in this like flux of trying to get back to the Seth Rollins he was before. That's an ongoing story. So I think to mess with his confidence a bit there would have been great, especially considering the fact that there's still a good chance that he's going to need all the confidence he can get going into a program with CM Punk somewhere down the line. So to have that happen and make that Hill and Valley story would have been better, in my opinion. Now, imagine everything that happened in this match with the exception of the multiple stomps, Bronson Reed wins. And he has that bloody face and he's standing over Seth's body in Saudi Arabia. Now that's $1 million shot. And that's something you could take into Survivor Series to have the return match. And maybe Seth falls short again and you can continue it and drag it to the Rumble. Maybe you have Seth get the win back at Survivor Series. Either could have been appropriate. But it really sucks that Bronson didn't even get a chance off the real go one. It felt more like we're going to give you the best we can, but you still got to take the L, buddy. And that's, to me, sucks because the win, I know some people say wins and losses don't matter in pro wrestling. I say bullshit. I think in this case, it was very much a needed victory for Bronson Reed. And that, to me, was what really stood out. Now, side note, small pet peeve. Let me get back to these avalanche moves by these big niggas. A superplex from the top rope from Bronson Reed can't beat Seth Rollins. Damn near 400 pounds of superplex can't beat Seth Rollins. You know what? Why do I even bother? This man said he broke his back and did every move in his moveset against Shinsuke like it wasn't even a thing. I hate it. I hate it. No, I genuinely hate it. I also hate you gave away the super stomp in the first match. Seth should have had to if what's his name? If Midoriya in My Hero Academia took how many seasons to figure out he could kick? Seth could have waited till match 2 or 3 to pull out the super stomp. They gave away too much, in my opinion.
And I think that's part of that's been I would say that's been a consistent criticism that you've had of Seth in his matches over the last 2 or 3 years and some change, and even more so when he won the World Heavyweight Championship. Between his matches with with Shinsuke, between his matches with Finn Balor, between his matches, even with even with Gunther or whatever. But it's just like, or Damian Priest rather, like you've been critical in terms of the finishing and the booking of these matches that surround Seth is either bullshit or just like, okay, like you could have accepted the loss there. Like you didn't really need it there. Like, and tonight again it's been the running theme of the show. The fact that the wrong person kind of won in a sense. And it's just like, it just doesn't make any sense in terms of what WWE is trying to go for. I get it because Survivor Series is around the corner, but at least you have a month to build that story, like a legit. Well, use November 2nd, so we got 28 days, but it's essentially a month.
And it's not to say that Bronson can't recover, but first impressions do mean a lot, and it makes me mad that you have to even recover in the first place because Seth going, "What do I have to do to kill you?" It's like, you won. Why do you even care? The only reason why you'd have to care is if Braun's going to chase you again, which is going to make Braun look like a bitter monster. Which is like, if that would, like, why not make Seth the bitter one? Seth's the one with the attitude problems, quote unquote, in terms of his character. Seth is the one with the temper issue. Seth is the one that has a hard time accepting when he's not the noble one. Why not have him lose and sit there and think about this and go, damn, what do I have to do? Because I can't just take that. And then he loses again. And then he goes, shit. And then you could have had a hardcore match of some sort where Seth would have had the ability to use the steps, to use outside things, to slay the beast. Because remember, that was his gimmick for a couple years. Insert word slayer. Like it really makes me upset because now it's like Braun, in order for Braun to even this up, he has to win twice, which is not going to happen. And even if Braun wins the next match, it's like, well, all we have to do is wait for you to stumble. And it's like not fair.
It's like all the air went out of its sails when Seth won because it's like, okay, yeah, like I know if Eric was here, he'd be like, you know what, man, Bronson Reed, he won from losing. And it's like, this is not one of those moments. Like, Bronson Reed should have won the match because of the fact of that momentum that he's had when he beat Braun Strowman and the way he's been attacking virtually everybody that was within his purview on the main roster. You have to continue that momentum of dominance, even against a former world champion, because if you want to basically give the idea that Bronson Reed can be a world champion in WWE, Seth Rollins should have been one of those guys to be like, okay, like I gotta go through Seth, and not only go through him, I gotta destroy him. because it's like, yo, Gunther said I'm not shit because like I ain't beat nobody credible. All right, I got Braun Strowman out the way. He's a former Universal Champion. I got him out the paint. Seth Rollins, had he got him out the paint, there would have been no one outside of Drew and possibly Punk, but there's no one that could like legit stand toe to toe with him on his way to a possible World Heavyweight Championship title berth. Like I would have loved to see him go against Damian Priest. Now that Priest is somewhat clear for now of the Judgment Day, because it gives him so much more.
Now we don't even know that because Dominic and Priest are going to meet each other in the Fatal 4-Way, so who knows? But
so who knows? But it's like this would have been an opportunity to start doing a lot more than just the main stories, because like again, another thing that you said on this show routinely, the main storylines that are great for the show that brings viewers in, it's great, but it does do it to service because it does overshadow the other stories that are gaining traction, but not enough because the main stories get more of the limelight than the ones that you're trying to basically organically grow. And
it happened to Chad Gable. Look at where Chad Gable was at the beginning of the year versus where he's at now. And it's like, yeah, I'm happy he has better singlets, he has a stable, this or that, but like he's lost a lot of steam that honestly a move to SmackDown probably would help. US Championship, wink, wink. But in the same token, because I know there's still a trade they need to do because they were able to get certain assets recently. But
hey, listen, I gotta talk about the management in a moment.
but my thing is like with the Braun Strowman, God damn it, there are too many Brauns on this show. But with the Bronson Reed, with the Bronson Reed, with Bronson Reed, I'm just gonna call him Jonah because it'll make it easier for me. With goddamn Jonah on this roster, and here's the thing, right? I'm not saying that the narrative is wrong. Seth outsmarting Bronson Reed is not a bad thing. That's how it should go. He should be trying to figure out a clever way to beat Bronson because straight up on attributes, he's not winning that unless he clips his knee and zigzags around him, which Seth doesn't necessarily have to do. What I'm saying is that while the ideas that everyone are trying to justify aren't wrong, it's the order of how they happened that's wrong. We can all be in the same conversation talking about, yeah, these are the things that need to happen, but we can be in two different lanes talking about when they need to happen. And that's the big deal. Stop focusing on the guy. I'm focusing on the end result of this match. Y'all are focusing on the end result of the feud, saying, well, this is how it was supposed to end anyway. Well, here's the thing. I could have gotten 3 matches out of this where I could have been invested in all 3, but now I only got 1, and I could care less about the next one because what's the point now? So pacing for people who preach about long-term storytelling when it benefits them, overall pacing matters. Literal overall pacing matters. If you don't understand the difference, then you're part of the problem.
It does, man. We'll see on Monday, where this goes, because we'll definitely be on the road for Survivor Series.
Oh, I want them to give me faith again. I hope they have something in the chamber because right now I'm feeling off from this.
Well, we shall see. But let's get to one of our. Well, it wasn't a match, but it was a brawl. It wasn't done backstage, but it was a brawl.
Oh, that's the wrong thing at the bottom of the screen, my brother. You put Rhodes and Gunther. There you go. Yeah, there you go. Now put the real one.
Sorry. There you go. Right there. Right there. Sorry. Right there. Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. I mean, it wasn't much of a match. It was just straight, just fighting. It was just like beef is when I see you. Guaranteed, I see you. One more time, what's beef?
It's on site.
It's on site, brother.
This was first of all, before we even start, ladies and gentlemen that are watching, Randall, everyone else that's tuned in, if they don't make a Kevin Owens Legend Killer parody shirt, we are leaving money on the table. We saw the Cody Rhodes. Not Cody Rhodes. We saw the Cowboy Bob Orton short. What the hell just happened? I just turned to Glorilla with my voice. What should call it? We saw the Bob Orton shirt, and that was savage. It'd be even more savage if Kevin Owens just went, So you're the legend killer, huh? So you're the guy. You're the guy. He has his own version of a legend killer shirt, and he's going, well, it's time on Randy Orton. I would love to see something like that. But the actual brawl, yes. Actually, yes. You know what? No, there's no need to throw this match away really quickly. As a matter of fact, you can make an argument for a couple matches. We could have done a brawl to kind of preserve the feud and keep it going and drag it out a little bit more. This was fun. I love the fact that this is built off of Kevin Owens' lunacy. He is a psychopath.
He ain't crazy.
He ain't crazy. He's being billed. But here's the thing. He's not wrong for how he feels, but he gets crazy when he's justified. And the fact that he's being psychotic in a justified direction in itself is interesting. Like, this is part of Kevin Owens' whole character. He's been crazy for a long time. It's just he's shown it in spurts. Now he gets to be full on crazy and do stuff like this and get booed for it. He could jump off of a platform, put somebody through a table, and get booed for it. If that's not an achievement, I don't know what is. But yeah,
this is the Kevin Owens that like we should have consistently seen since 2015, since late December of 2014 when he power bombed the shit out of Sami Zayn on the apron on the
this
ring.
Man
apron.
would have been a 4-time world champion by now.
Like, this is the man that we've been waiting for to come full fledged. And
this is the man that should have beaten a down bad Cody. Pause. Should have beaten a hurt Cody Rhodes, a morally hurt Cody Rhodes after getting beaten by Gunther. How about that? How about that?
That's a fact.
How about that?
That's how I thought the match was gonna go.
And it didn't. But this...
That's what I'm mad about, because I'm like, well, he doesn't need an interference to him. I'm like, fuck that. I'm like, yo, like...
Whether it was interference or not, no. Kevin Owens taking the scraps, bro. This is what... It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If he got involved, okay, Gunther went, fuck it. If Gunther beat him clean, okay, fuck it. Guess what? Afterwards, you have Gunther with the championship in the ring. You see Cody at the top of the ramp like Cena, like he did with the rubber chicken and all that. You have him upset, and while he's crying there, you have Kevin Owens pick his ass up, beat him down, and powerbomb him off the platform. Machine Gun Kelly took it. You think Cody Rhodes' blonde ass can't take that? Come on, man. Pause. But come on, man. Like, you could have just like, come on, come on, man.
Like, I'm like that. That's what I thought was gonna happen tonight. In that championship match between Gunther and Cody. I was like, all right, cool. Something's going to happen between him and Randy Orton where it's just like, it's going to be inconclusive. Kevin just goes off of rage. And then he's going to interfere or after the match just beat the shit out of Cody going into Survivor Series. And when I didn't get that, I'm just like, if there was any place to do that,
bro, Gunther celebrating with Triple H in the ring like we saw with Liv. Fireworks going off. Cody's hurt on the stage because you realize he let himself down. He let his brand down. He let all this stuff down. And the fireworks are still going off. You have the little trademark thing in the corner because Triple H loves to do that. He's been doing that since NXT. And, Cody's celebrating. And Kevin just deadlifts his ass and starts beating his ass and power bombs him off the stage. And everyone's like, whoa, what the? And then you go off air. Go off air. What?
Boom.
What? Bro, what?
Boom. That's how you would have done it. That's how you would have done it. It sucks. It sucks the fact that we didn't get that tonight because it's just like, yo, what
right
better
there.
way going right like The Rock said, it's like you had it you had it right in the palm of your hands. And then what do you do with it? Like, you had it. You legit had a moment that could immediately like reinvigorate everything that you loved about Kevin Owens.
And it leads right into the next, because that's a double ending. Because Gunther winning leads right into Raw and Riyadh tomorrow. And then Kevin Owens doing that to Cody leads right into SmackDown.
Bro, like already, you don't necessarily have to write for SmackDown. It writes itself in terms of how you promote that.
It wrote for both shows. Those are two lead-ins to both. And then Randy's still hurt, so you're still worried about that. Well, like, you just...
Like you had so many things. Like, you already know Randy Orton's already gunning for Cody low-key because he's looking at the title. But he had to go through Kevin Owens because it's like, he's my dog. He's my bro. I technically raised him into business. So it's like, you can't go with my bro like that. But you get fucked up in the process. So you get out the paint. And then, of course, in the Gunther-Cody match, he's like, all right, man, Randy still got me fucked up. But it's like, nah, but it's that Cody, though. Cody's the one that put this all in motion because, like, Cody
And you can
went
you
back
could
on his word.
also you could also double sell it too, because imagine if Kevin Owens came out and he wasn't just like, like he no sold what happened earlier in the night. You could have had Kevin's covered in tape. Like it could have been like Kevin Owens like taped up on the shoulder and his arm and his
Right.
ribs, and he still was so filled with venom. He went
So
after Cody, and then both of them would have been hurt going into the next match they would have had, which meant that there would have been no excuses. Cody's hurt, Kevin's hurt. They both fell off of platforms, and Kevin still wins.
and you know what I hate? I hate the fact that Drew McIntyre got the chance to be the biggest hater when it came to CM Punk, but Kevin Owens can't do the same to Kevin. Kevin Owens cannot do the same for Cody Rhodes. Nah, like listen, I'm tired of SmackDown getting the short end of the stick. God damn it! No, what we're not gonna do is not do this to SmackDown. Let Kevin Owens be the biggest hater when it comes to Cody Rhodes because it's well deserved and earned. Like he went back on your word. He's like, yo, I'll help you take these motherfuckers down. And what do you do not 6 months after? You go team with the nigga? No, you got me fucked up. Nah. You owe me some time. That man ran me over with a golf cart.
And what's funny is that when they did fight as friends, Kevin had a chance to win the championship going to his old ways.
Kevin was like, yo, I spared your ass. I spared you.
He took the high road, and he feels Cody did. Bro, this is all right. The show's over. Let's go home. Let's go home.
I'm like, yo, he spared you.
Let's go home. There's nothing else to say.
But I will say, what does this mean for Randy Orton though? Because Orton did get, his ass whooped, didn't move after the attack from Kevin Owens. It was back and forth. But the one thing I will say before I talk about Randy Orton, Scrap Daddy, you deserve the RKO because what the fuck you was doing in the ring on SmackDown business? Okay, first of all, Nick Aldis is a SmackDown GM. You are the Raw GM. What? Like this has. You should not even be out there to begin with. This has nothing to do with you.
I don't know what this. I honestly I can't really pinpoint where I don't understand it right now. But I want to see where it goes. I want to see where it goes. I don't care. I want to see where it goes. And you know what? I think that it's funny that it happened. I mean, not to say that Scrap Daddy is the more lenient of the general managers, but how those two react to situations is slightly different. So I'm curious.
Because Nick always be like, all right, this is going on. All right, bet I'll wait till I come out, say my piece, and then dip. Scrap Daddy's there for every skirmish.
I feel bad for Sean Daivari, man. Got messed up for no reason. I'm gonna be real with you. There's not much else.
Daivari didn't deserve it. He didn't.
No, he didn't. No, he never does. But he's used to it at this point. He has crash pads under the damn shirt and everything.
I'll blame Kurt Angle for this.
Yes, of course. Yes. It's more justified because I've been watching a lot of 05 to 07 Kurt recently. But I will say this, man, regardless of the order, regardless of how you guys feel about certain decisions, I do feel like there were certain missed opportunities that could have put some gas to some of the fires they already had. At the end of the day, WWE storyline wise they're going to be fine because they have the hot seat, like they have the fire right now. I'm just saying, I think like what we're offering again are other possibilities that could have made this even more interesting and possibly could have given more life to a lot of these stories. A lot of these endings tonight were not terrible, but definitely could have been much better. As Rand said, it's all a matter of perspective, really. A lot of it is subjective, but I think that there are some unanimous decisions here, or not unanimous, but more so like a majority of people would have gone, yeah, some of these ideas we suggested today definitely could have made things more interesting than what we got. Because some of this stuff did feel flat. You could kind of feel it through the phone. You could feel it through the screen. A lot of this stuff did feel a bit flat. So, those are our perspectives. That is, for the most part, been Crown Jewel. We have 2 new trophy champions and a lot of stuff that needs to be answered for.
All right, we're not going to discuss the match, but we're going to discuss a little bit of like the angles that you've seen in the match, because like we all know what happened in the first match of the night, OG Bloodline versus New Bloodline.
Oh, I forgot about this match.
We're not going to go through like the semantics of it because we kind of know, but I will say a tidbit of the match where it's just like Roman's ego has gotten to the point where it's just like, damn, like I can't even like bring myself to enjoy the fact that Jay is so over now to a point where it's like he think he better than me, and it like this tonight played perfectly to what could show out in Survivor Series, because seeing how Roman's just like not being a team player at all, where you see Jimmy following the play from Roman, knowing exactly what Jay says, like, yo, we equals, dog. If we gonna win as a team. Like, if you see a play, like, yo, we can do this together. It just seemed like OG Bloodline had no cohesion. It just seemed that there's a lot of different things that kind of like sputtered out of control. And Solo played it right. He played it right, knowing the fact that there was going to be some dissension and you had to pick your spots. And he did, which is why they won tonight.
Yeah.
I have a suspicion on Sammy in saying, like, all right, for me, I know it's not going to happen, but like I do have the realm of possibility, the fact that Sammy might be a double agent in this because of how Roman legit did because of his beef with Roman. So,
there are endless possibilities to that. I would not want to see Sami Zayn be on the negative side of crowd reactions, because I don't care if he beefs with Roman. I don't want Sammy to full on turn heel like some people do, because it took so long to get here and he's finally enjoying the spoils of it. And there's still so much that hasn't been done yet. There's still a part of me that wants to see that guy dethrone Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship too. But even beyond that, for me, I think the argument could be made this could have been like, so we could have skipped this and went straight to Survivor Series and had more dissension build over time. But there's no way they were going to have Roman on the main TV episodes and not have him be on Saudi Arabia. I feel like the officials would have felt cheapened if Roman didn't compete. So I get why this happened. I do like the fact that we had the separate entrances. I do like the fact that it seemed like Roman and Jimmy were in the same realm and Jay wasn't completely. And I do like those dissensions, yes. Sammy catching Roman in the face mid Superman punch is hilarious. Roman losing to Solo, getting pinned by Solo.
That was good.
Which is something only Jay has been able to do within the family. Jay and Cody are the only ones to really beat Roman during his reign on top, like pin him. So that's a very exclusive club, over talent.
Solo pinning him as he's on the descent rather than on the way down.
Yeah,
was good. All right, so quick takes of the show. What was your match of the night for if you had a match tonight? What was your match of the night for tonight?
My match of the night. Shit. No, I'm playing. It would have been Cody and Gunther. Honestly, I think Cody and Gunther was more my cup of tea. I think the women's tag match is also up there. Most of the other matches were they just kind of happened for me because, I think the triple threat for the U.S. title was also good. So those probably would have been the three top of the night, but Cody and Gunther would have been my deal, with the exception of the ending, which made me want it. Yeah.
So there were no bad matches essentially, but the way the finishes were kind of like, kind of left, some sour taste in people's mouths. But if you think, if you had a good match of the night, what was one of your like low lights? One of your matches that, left to be desired in terms of how it turned out tonight?
Ironically, it'd be the WWE Women's Champion versus Women's World Champion situation. I wasn't a big fan of that match.
I'm right there with you.
But I think that was the worst cohesive match of the night. I think the match that pissed me off the most is, what do you call it? Seth and Jonah. Seth and Bronson Reed.
I know that match pissed you off for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so that's probably it. Those two.
All right, no problem. Overall grade for Crown Jewel. What's your overall grade?
Grade. The B plus, I guess. B plus,
right around the same
or a B minus, one of those. It's not the worst thing you could watch, but it could have been better.
Is it fluid right now? Is it fluid in terms of your choices, as Stephen A would say on First Take? My choices are fluid. They're fluid.
The only thing fluid is the boiling of my blood right now.
Now you gotta get that checked. Big E's not here to talk about his match of the week, but we will be looking ahead, forecasting Survivor Series, and amongst other things that will be next week's show. Kid Ty, will you have like a segment to talk about? Will you have something to talk about bringing into your Battle Bell segment next week?
Not sure just yet. I mean, this segment's kind of been thrusted upon me. I didn't expect Bell to Bell to come back in this format, but I mean, I definitely can think of some things. I think one thing we can expand upon next week is talking about TV matches. We kind of talked about it a bit today, where like we talked about how the perception of how TV is looked at versus pay-per-view or premium live at pause. But like what you
It's all good. It's all good.
But like how TV and pay-per-view are looked at, and how I think a lot of fans think that television is just. Let's make no mistake about it. Television is made to promote the pay-per-views, but to say that television can't stand on its own as great events, to me is stupid. The fact that people think that it can't do that is stupid. So I think that's something we can talk about next week in terms of like how the stigma against TV matches. The idea that TV is just for segments and that the TV episodes can't be good and that TV matches can't be on par with pay-per-view matches. I can definitely make an argument for TV, and I guess we can do that next week.
All right, cool. Let's see here. If you are a professional wrestler, content creator, media persona, and would like to be a guest on the show and or collab for other things, you can contact us via our booker, aka Diamond Cutter Grizz, at our email at 2013row@gmail.com, and be sure to follow our brother Grizz on his socials at Queens Made Grizz on Instagram, and I think he's Queens Made Grizz on Twitter as well with mad underscores. I believe. I think that's on Instagram. I guess I got that shit flipped. But also lastly, submit topics you want us to discuss on the pod. Obviously, there's a lot of different various wrestling topics that, of course, the brain trust that come up, ourselves. But sometimes we kind of like some interaction from you guys as well. So if you like a topic that you guys want us to kind of talk about throughout an episode, please feel free to hit us up. You could hit us up through an email. You can hit us up through our social media in terms of what you guys want us to speak on our pod. For today, I am your final boss, aka Shot Biz Ronnie, aka the people shaming of the Backstage Brawl, joined by South Forest, aka the Dynamite Kid. This has been episode 155 of Run the Jewels. And Ty, do you have anything else to say before we clock out?
Turn off that damn phone. Half of your problems come from that damn phone. You need to meditate. You need to drink water. You need to relax. Watch a show that you like. Stop live tweeting your show. Talk to your friends on the phone. You could text in the chat, but turn off the damn phone.
And with that said,
you smell. Take a shower. Turn off the damn phone.
With that said,
wash your ass. Turn off the damn phone.
It's been the Backstage Brawl. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. Enjoy.
Unless you're watching us, don't turn off your phone.
Beat it. Wash your ass.